I'm enjoying it, enjoying the lockdown and everything. I
Yeah,
do
it's been pretty interesting so far.
it has been, and we've come a long way since that first discussion in March.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah. It's been a long time. I mean, who would have known we were still pretty much on lockdown? I'm this time today. I'm actually in Vegas, but as you might know, I spend most of my time in Northern California, and we haven't even lifted the curfew yet. We're still locked inside, so we're just in phase one. So no fun.
No, that's tough. That's tough. Well, Christian, you're going to talk to us today basically about understanding the application of technology in EP. I've got a presentation ready if you like. Alex Bomberg says good afternoon in the audience. That's a nice.
Hey, how are you, Alex? Well, if you have the presentation, maybe we should do it like that, since I am a little challenged on this system here.
No problem, no problem. Let me just make sure it's nice and expanded. There we go. Just opening it up.
Goes down this one now.
And so all we do, if you just tell me, I will move everything along.
All right. So
I'm going to share.
If you can start the first slide.
Do you know what? That's I think. Let's just do it. Here we go. I'm going to share my screen. Can you see it?
I see it absolutely perfect.
Fantastic. All righty. So you have the floor. All
right. Well, everybody that doesn't know me, my name is Christian West. I'm the CEO and founder of AS Solution, and we're an executive protection company. For the past 20 years, we've been working all over the world, and I run about 600 protection agents in about 21 countries, and we do roughly 3,000 jobs with executives and executive travelers all over the world, and every year. And due to that, we've always been very, very strong on technology. And well, I don't know if we've been strong, but we've been embracing it a lot. And you would think that when you work in executive protection, technology is a big part of what you do. But for years, it really wasn't. I mean, we struggled for a long time with the traditional image of bodyguards. And there was this assumption that it was all about moving from A to B, making sure nothing happened, pushing people out of the way, that whole image that we all saw for years and years and years. Luckily, we have evolved out of this, and we kind of call it EP 2.0. For those around the world, EP is executive protection. It's kind of the evolution of the bodyguard term. In EP 2.0, we kind of gotten way more integrated into the different companies, into the different people that we look after, meaning that all of a sudden we have to work with the same technologies. We've gotten way more mobile. We gotten integrated into the corporate environment. We're not the weirdos under the stairs anymore that we used to be. And as part of that, technology has of course evolved with us. If you take the next slide, Palin, one of the things I wanted to kind of start up with is kind of the light of what executive protection truly is and what it touches. Most people know what we do in the middle part. We, of course, protect the CEO and the C-suite and whoever is in his bubble. We do that, of course, with our physical presence, planning, preparation, all of that stuff. But that's kind of like the element that most people know about. What they don't know is all the other subcategories that we touch pretty much on a daily basis. And I thought before I dive too much into it, I wanted to run over this, we call it the protective circle, really quickly. Most of the CEOs that we look after, they go to some form of an event every week. So we're very engaged with event security. We're very engaged with what goes on when they go out to speak, when they go out to do press releases, when they go out to do any type of public events. So event security has always been a big thing for us. And here it's super important that we can touch the different plans that's made. It's important that we know what kind of equipment is used, what kind of technology is used for sweeping and detecting weapons for the audiences, incident management systems, what kind of camera systems, if there's stuff we need to know, if there's stuff that needs to be sent back to a GSOC, if there's been POI events, if there's been people who's been acting in a weird way, how do we capture stuff from that? So we touch technology on all kinds of event security side. We also work with protective intelligence, obviously. We need to know what is the risk of everywhere we're going. What kind of intel do you have on the country? What kind of intel do you have about the meeting? Are we speaking right now in America, for people who's been following it? Obviously, there's been a lot of protests going on. A lot of our clients participate in some of these protests. It's super important when you do that you have somebody who can sit and monitor social media, can sit and monitor feeds from the police, monitor Twitter accounts and stuff like that, so we know if we have to evacuate, and we can kind of follow what's going on. So protective intelligence is a huge part where we touch all kinds of technology every day. We've seen a tremendous uptick in mail, in sent letters, sent packages, stuff like that, especially now when we've been cooped up at home. I don't know if you guys have seen the amount of packages that comes to private houses every day and stuff like that. It's super important that we have a very, very stringent technology for mail and for packages. It's one of the things that all our clients get kind of touched by every day. So technology there, we touch technology on the travel side. Right now, we kind of closed down on travel. But before that, every time we went somewhere, we were using drivers, we were using secure vehicles, we were using maybe helicopters, planes, all kinds of stuff. And all of them have maintenance schedules. They have a lot of the cars now are online. A lot of the cars have internet in the cars, all of these things, right? So again, here we touch technology. We all work with our protective intelligence and operations centers that support us in our operations. If we need to go and make changes to reservations, if there is stuff going on, if we're staying in hotels and we leave the nighttime security to our protective intelligence centers, there's camera uplinks, there's all kinds of security back and forth. And we're so depending on technology on that part. When the clients go home at night, some CEOs, some clients, some protectees have a full-time security presence at their house. So they work out of a small GSOC that might be in the residence, but we can also switch it over to some of these GSOCs that kind of monitor for us at night and is our eyes and ears out in the perimeter. So it's super important that we have secure uplinks back and forth here. And a lot of times people don't know, but when we're at the office or when we're in the corporation, there's typically a InfoSec, there's a cybersecurity unit that helps the CEOs with a lot of things. But a lot of times that doesn't follow him home. So we leave it up to different security systems that might have been put in before we got the contract, before he got famous, before he became the CEO. So is this security system at home good enough? Have there been cyber security updates done at the client's home? And do the family follow these procedures? Because one thing is if the CEO himself follow the procedures that comes from the corporation, but do the kids follow these procedures? So there's a lot of security and a lot of technology that is kind of being developed. And it's a big thing that we work on at the moment to upgrade all the way around. And especially now, again, with the whole COVID thing of being at home. The other thing that we work a lot with, and it's growing tremendously, is the whole TSCM. TSCM, per tradition, for those who don't know, has been what we would refer to as bug sweeps. Sweeps for hidden microphones, hidden recording devices, all of that stuff. But that's developing as well because a lot of this stuff has gone digital. So it's super important that we work with them. And before, We saw that maybe a bug sweep was conducted on the really prepared organizations, maybe once a month, maybe once a quarter. Now it's kind of an ongoing thing. A lot of times when we move from place to place, you kind of have to have a bug sweep almost following you around, right? Because if you go out and look at what most clients perceive to be the biggest risks, it's information loss, and it's loss of things that can give them a bad image and a bad reputation. And a lot of that could come in a digital form from whatever leak of information. So in the next few years, we're going to see a tremendous move on the whole TSCM, and doing it mobile, doing it all the time when we're on the road. So what I'm trying to get at is, as an executive protection officer, per tradition, we were very focused on terrorism, physical attacks. We were very focused on stalkers and people who wanted to do our clients harm. And we would do most of our work by planning, putting guards in place, doing perimeter security, putting up fences, barriers when we speak, and all of that stuff. And then we would be the inner circle. But we also realized that that's just not enough, because we touch technology and all of that. And I even put in the little antiviral over here, because what's going to happen when we come out of COVID is that, without speaking too much about medical equipment, because I'm not kind of like capable of doing that. But if we break it down like we do most of the EP stuff, is that if we go to a hotel, we can book it early in advance. We can have people come in to clean, but we still have to have some kind of a technology that helps us to ensure that that cleaning was good enough. So do we all of a sudden have to be experts in UV light robots? Maybe we can bring our mobile equipment with us. Maybe we can get some technology that helps us set a standard. So the same way as we do around the world, where we hire cars, drivers, extra agents, we can hire cleaning crews that can come in and disinfect the hotel. We can bring in our technology just like we do with everything else, and make sure we live up to the standard that is needed for the CEO to get here. So I think that the way that we looked at EP, executive protection, in the past is kind of evolving. So we're kind of like starting to move to this new thing. If you can hit the next slide, Palin, that we call the EPTO. Palin, can you hit the next slide? Yep. Which is the EPTO, the Executive Protection Technology Officer. And it's one of the things that we've been struggling with now for a while, because most of the people that do EP is just like myself. We didn't come from a technology background. The generation before me and myself were somehow technology challenged, because we were very afraid of these new things with the internet, social media, all of a sudden all these cyber things. We kind of wanted to leave it all to the cyber professionals and all of that stuff, which were fine to a certain degree. But one of the things we got to realize is that until COVID, and probably after COVID, the people we protect becomes more and more mobile. They become younger and younger. I'm going to dive into that at the end of the presentation. They become more and more tech savvy and more connected. And again, this whole thing of when you're in your corporation, InfoSec got it, Cybersecurity got it. They're really, really good at what they do. We don't have to worry too much about it. We can probably influence most people to do it at their house, so they have a good system there. But as soon as we're on the road, not only us, but also the principals can be under attack anywhere, right? And we got a pretty stringent system at this time for detecting physical danger. But we don't have kind of like that aspect in the middle of detecting, educating, and kind of put focus on the potential problems. So if we start with the principal themselves, from we leave the office, they're on their mobile phones, they're on their iPads, right? We might have a secure network in the car if we're really lucky, but do everybody really turn on the VPNs? Do they really do that? And do we do that as agents when we're there, right? Do we educate the drivers of what kind of technology they can have switched on in their cars so we can't be tracked? Do we educate them on what kind of cars to use that can't be hacked? And do we care about all of this stuff? So the concept of the executive protection technology officer is that it can be as big or as small as you want it to be. But it is something that we need to get into our EP system, both educational wise, because all our agents needs to be educated to a certain level. But it might be a good idea to start to recruit on each team. So there's a guy who can actually really pay attention to this and make the notes so we can do some educational sessions with the CEOs, because a lot of people don't realize just because you're the CEO of a massive company that has a massive social media outreach, that has a massive technology presence, doesn't mean that they're technology savvy. And just like the rest of us, they have bad habits, good habits. So we need to kind of start mapping that out if there is bad habits, just like we change routes, we change the way that we give out press releases, we change the timings, we change all of these things. We can't be a good partner on the technology side unless we start noticing what's going on. Once we get to the hotels, do we log into the hotel network? Do we set up our own network? Does this network we set up have our own VPNs? If they do we travel with somebody from InfoSec or from Cybersecurity or whatever? Or can the agents do it? Can we get an easy fix for this? I've seen some teams who takes all the technology out of the room. That's great, but at the end of the day, we also have to nurture kind of what the principals do. I mean, I'm in a hotel today for people who haven't seen them. The new smart hotel rooms comes with these things where you can set the whole hotel room. You can set the air condition. You can do all of these things. You can order room service. You can even control the TV. You can control the curtains and whatever. If I take this out of the room, right, it's really hard for the principal to get the experience of the hotel room. If he's fine with that, great. But what if he's not, right? Who can tell us if this is a safe thing? Can it be hacked from the outside? Can it be controlled from the outside? Does it have a tape function in it? Does it have a record function in it? At least we have to be able to ask these questions, right? And for guys like myself who never really thought technology like this, I need to be educated on it. And the younger generation, of course, are more into this. So that's why we need to have this technology officer aspect in everything we do moving forward. And I think that some of the bigger teams will probably have and adopt a concept like this full time, just like we have people on the teams who are specialists in counter surveillance, people who are specialists in protective driving, just like we have the medics and everything else on the team. We need to start appointing technology officers who can breach this gap. If you just look at what we carry our smartphones, we carry our laptops, some of us carry our tablets. Our radios are now digitalized, they're double encrypted. We use all kinds of different apps and stuff like that. Who educate us on the right way of doing all these tools, right? And who adopted into our way of thinking? There are very few people who actually make equipment for executive protection operators, because there's not that many of us, and especially not a lot of people who do software for us, right? And there probably never will be, because there's so few of us. So we need to have somebody on the team who's always out there looking for new stuff that we can implement and use in the same right way, the same way as we do on the medical side, right? And we're going to have to do the same thing coming out of COVID as well. We're probably going to have some kind of a chief hygiene component or whatever, so we can kind of start looking at these things. If you go to the next slide, Phelan, really quick.
Okay.
One of the things that we have done for years is we've kind of tried to build our own platform that then took a life of its own. But one of the things that we have realized, and we're only touching the surface, that is that when we go to major events, and when I say major events, it's events like Davos. It's now events like the protest in America, where almost 1 million people are in Washington, D.C. It's events like the G8. It's events like the NFL draft and stuff like that, that drag in 500,000 to 1 million people. there's so many teams that protect people in the area. How come we don't have the ways of protection teams, right? Where we can support each other, where we can see where each other are, so we don't go in each other's way. We can reuse intelligence. One of the big problems that we have on intelligence is that intelligence is always somebody who sits somewhere else and look at something and then send it to us, right? How do we send it back, right? How do we send back what we pick up? How do we decipher? Is this person a threat? Maybe he's not a physical threat. He might be a information threat. Now I've seen the same guy next to me 4 or 5 times. Okay, maybe I should tell the other teams this, and maybe I could get the same information the other way around, right? I know that everybody gets scared when I say that, and oh, no, everything is proprietary. We can't share information, whatever. I'll challenge that any day of the week and go, why not, right? As long as we're in a closed network or whatever. I mean, how come I have to invent all of my own systems? How come we don't have the Uber of protective drivers around the world yet? How come I don't have the Uber of TSCM agents that can help me all around the world, right? And we'll probably have to adapt the same thing for cleaning up and COVID and all of these things, right? And when you think about where we have moved the past 3 years with our little system, and you have to remember that I'm a vendor, so I don't really have R&D budgets. I don't really have all of these things that the big corporations have. So I challenge them to kind of like come out and help us with this stuff, right? Because we managed to take a platform that started just being advanced work. Then we added in contingency plans, because we realized that if you have the advanced work, you also need to build the contingency plan right away. It's not good enough in executive protection that the contingency plan is just built back in home office, because that might not work on the side or on the side where you're at, right? And if you're building your advanced work, why don't you build the contingency plan at the same time, right? And I know to a certain degree we used to do that, but we never digitalized it, meaning that it's just the agent on the ground who knows it. Then we kind of got better at putting things on paper so we could give a brief about it. But now we're at a point where our contingency plans has push technology, right? So I can push to the drivers, you have to remember to do this. I can push, if this happens, remember to give corporate communication a call so they can manage the journalist who's going to call, because there's been an incident in South Africa right now. It's impossible for the agent who's dealing with this on the actual time of the incident, the actual time of the attack or whatever, to remember to do all of these things. But the way that the news cycle now works with social media, we will always be behind if the contingency plan doesn't follow the advanced work and it doesn't push out to the people like right now. These are the things that we have to kind of like challenge ourselves to get into. We have to get into like tracking of assets, right? If we send out an EP team, how do we know that they got enough sleep the day before the assignment, right? How do we know that they're in good shape? How do we measure their health? Just like we measure for everything else. And the other thing that we really need to look into in the future of executive protection is we need to be so much better at tracking our data. When you think about it, how many hours do we spend on the plane? How many hours do we sit in traffic? Well, if we sit that many hours in traffic, how do we make it more productive for our CEOs? But not only that, it also tells us how do we train, right? Well, we probably need to train a lot on potential car accidents. Well, how do we staff? Well, we all want more people. Well, we can't really prove how many people we need. But if we know we spent this much time in traffic, well, maybe we should find either a better way, or we should find a way to show the data so we can say that this data actually means that you move this much to that many hotels and you eat that type of food. So maybe we should do more on the health education for the EP agents, and what can this kind of boil down to in the long run. And that's when we start to get the real threat assessment, right? So technology for executive protection, we just started, but it's very, very, very important that we kind of keep pushing ourselves. So I think that'll be a big, big, big part of the future of what we do. How are we doing on time, Pelham?
Well, we're sort of fast running out. I mean, some of the things we might, of course, discuss in the panel, but happy for you to continue.
Sorry?
I'm happy for you to continue. We're sort of out of time.
All right,
but
I got one more I would love to put in there if that's okay, just as a little bit of a thought piece on executive protection. So if you can hit the next slide. I spoke about this last time. I spoke for you in person in London, Caleb, and I've gotten so much feedback on it afterwards. So for the people that are out there who's actually in executive protection, I think there's some numbers that they should dig into. And I think it's pretty important that people understand the clientele that we're in, because the whole thing of the mobile workforce and our CEOs getting more and more independent and more mobile, they're also getting younger and younger. And just to give people an idea, if you ask how much time CEOs spend on technology, they spend roughly 50% on their time working with some kind of a technology, their phones, their computers, whatever, right? So for us to expect that we don't need to have that as part of our contingency plans and the way that we move forward is totally unrealistic. 68% of buyers prefer to do their own research before they buy stuff. All right, we need to realize that as well, because when we go out and advise our clients on solutions moving forward, we can do all the work that we want in the world, but 68% of them relies more on their own research, meaning that they ask their friends, they look at the internet, they look at what other people have, and they do their own benchmarking. And 68% of them trust that more than what they get from the corporation. 76% of the clients that we work for are more comfortable buying stuff online than they are offline. All right, so how do we portray ourselves as EP agents? For the people on this speech that are not EP operators and doesn't work in EP, a lot of times it's very hard for us to get our clients to buy into what it is that we do, because we are kind of an intrusion of their privacy. And a lot of EP teams have a very hard time getting to do what they're really supposed to do. Well, a lot of it in my mind starts here, right? Because if most people are more comfortable buying stuff online, why do we try to sell ourselves in a physical form all the time, right? Why don't we as EP operators learn from everywhere else and go out and talk about the user face, the user experience? How much of this can we move over to an app-based communication with our clients, so they don't have to say good morning to you if they don't feel like it? They don't have to look at you in the morning if they don't feel like it. Maybe they can just call us when they're ready or whatever. I'm not saying I have the solution, but I'm saying there's a lot to be learned from here. 76% of them are more comfortable buying stuff online, but we still try to sell it all in a physical form or via paper and brochures and one-pagers and all of that. 80% of them don't want to buy stuff from salespeople because they don't think they're specialized enough. We can learn a lot from that. We really, 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 really need to get better at putting trust and being trustworthy in the products that we sell. And technology is such a big part of it for us to go in and do that. I don't think the last one is as important as it was before, so I'm not going to go into that. But there's two more facts I want to tell everybody. That is, in about 5 years from now, 75% of the workforce will be millennial. The millennials is the smallest generation ever to hit the workforce. And all research shows that it'll probably be the richest generation ever to hit the workforce, because we were really good at saving money for them, stuff like that. So there's few of them. So they're going to come in with a totally different mindset. And we know in our little research here, the younger our clients are, the bigger security setups they usually end up with when they become multimillionaires and billionaires and stuff like that, because they were exposed to security early on and they understand the technology and they understand all of these things. So we as EP providers, if we don't get our technical know-how and our technical expertise and our user interface and all of that in line pretty quick, we're going to fall so far behind. Also on the whole recruitment segment, if you think about it for a second, if it's going to be the smallest workforce we've ever had with the most money, how many of them do want to do service jobs, right? So we surely need to figure out how do we get way more diverse in our recruitment so we can recruit from countries where we traditionally wouldn't recruit EP agents. We have to recruit from groups in society that typically didn't want to come into security. I mean, we're definitely going to be as diverse as we possibly can, because else we cannot find enough people fast enough. So technology and executive protection is the future. We need to buy into it. We need to get creative, and we need to start thinking outside the box. I think that's my take on this, Palin.
Fantastic. No, I love it. And I love your thought about the Uber of executive protection. We've got a nice comment in the audience. Perhaps we can bundle this question into our panel. Thibaut Sacchetti says, hello, Christian. Happy to hear you again. Always learning from you. Are you not afraid that in the 21st century, we're going to be going too far in the world of technology for EP to accomplish their task without relying too heavily on tech? So that's an interesting question, which is in our panel thoughts. I thought I'd highlight that from Thibaut. But if that's okay, shall I move on to the panel? That'd be fantastic. Okay, fantastic. And in fact, we had in the comments, Jay Martin asks, is AS solution primarily using proprietary applications for these areas? Do you create these in-house? I think you did touch on, as you know.
We do some proprietary tools, but we use all kinds of tools. And we actually spend quite a bit of time searching for tools that are already built that can do what we do. But what we figure out is that not a lot of tools are specifically built for executive protection. So a lot of them originally does something else, but we can kind of like change it or change the way that we use them.
Fantastic. Well, I'm just bringing up our other panelists, and Kevin and Chris have actually come in with some good questions, which I think we're going to have to bundle into our wonderful panel. Welcome, Ivor. Welcome, Chuck. How are you doing?
Hey, guys.
Fantastic.
Living the dream.
Welcome, Chris. I'm just bringing Mike up as well. Just to make sure we've got everybody. Hello, Lee. Fantastic. Nice to see you. Full house. Full house. So I'm going to hand over to Mike to ask our panelists, about how we can understand the evolution of tech threats and opportunities in executive security, physical security. And thank you for, yes, the mug. Very good, very good. I have one. Hopefully it is the executive protection one. I don't know if that's a bit too close to the screen. Mike, you have the floor, and please lead us away on our fantastic panel.
Thanks, Pelham.